I think as championships have proven in the past that Winged Foot is principally about second shots into those greens and then ultimately about the greens and the challenges and the slopes that they provide to the golf, and really small targets to hit to, and the penalties, with all of them being elevated, either deep bunkers or thick rough around them. It's a high premium and a lot of pressure on hitting those shots into the greens. It's one of those really no bunkers in place off the tee, but it's get it in the fairway, because if you're in the rough going into that green, you're really going to struggle. Open front to the green, your third putt on the first green. I'm not trying to be funny, because that sets the tempo, that sets the tone around golf out there. And if you've got a third putt and it's a tough one, your mind just could be scrambled leaving there. Conversely, if it's a tap in, then you kind of like, okay, take your medicine and walk off of there, because that green's traditionally always been really, really tough one. So I think that's a really good one to get your round started. It's probably the most difficult green on the golf course, sort of a nice welcome to Winged Foot. I think the tee shot on 6, the little guy, L, got tremendous potential. It could really be a boom or bust type tee shot. An eagle and certainly birdie would be expected on that hole. It's another hole where I think, you're going to look at that yardage on the scorecard and you're going to think, okay, I need, very few birdie opportunities out there. And I think that adds a pressure onto itself.
Yep.
Is that if you walk off there making a 5 or a 4, the mental strain, I think is going to show as well. So I think that tee shot's really a critical one to get yourself in position to be aggressive. I think it's the narrowest fairway on the golf course. Get yourself in all kinds of trouble playing at different angles in that green, or you could drive it into that small neck in the front of the green. And it'll be interesting with the positioning of that bunker down the left-hand side. Golfers are either just going to take an iron and lay up short of that bunker, or if they want to press the advantage, they're going to have to hit 3-wood or driver to get past that bunker. So I think it'll be a really interesting hole to watch how they attack it. I think by removing that front left bunker visually, the hole feels more appealing to try and take a rip at it. But I think, honestly, it's probably a little bit more dangerous with that area being rough over there. There is a creek that kind of winds around behind and then comes down the left-hand side of the green. And, so if you really hit one hard and pull it, come over the top, and now without that bunker there, see, that bunker used to basically gobble up any ball that was headed for the creek. And now with that just being rough, a ball bounces a couple times, it could wind up in that little creek that's back there, which was what we believed Tillingham's thought process was. Not that anybody was driving that hole back in that day. This green, through expansion and through basically peeling away the evolution of the front bunker on the right, created a ton more hole locations. And so I think the setup of this golf hole will have a tremendous amount of flexibility. The tee shot on 10, going into the back 9, difficult green to hit and hold. Really going to be a critical shot, and obviously one of the most photographed ones out there. We did add a back tee, which is pretty much on the lawn right next to the pro shop, so that we can try and get a little bit more length played into it. So I think if we've added probably about 30 yards to the golf hole. I mean, this hole is probably the hole that most typifies Winged Foot. I think it's probably the most recognizable one and famous, and one of the best par 3s ever created. And just the way it sits up on that landform, the severity of the green, and the precision required to hit and hold that green. In preparation for the 06 Open, that green had been softened and modified because the contour was just too severe. And so in going back at it, it was one where we thought, we're just going to leave it as is. We didn't want to restore some of the severity, because I think that's when you get on that borderline of, is this really green speeds, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the changes that were made, 15 years ago were good ones, and the green, now a ball will stay up on the green instead of kind of being propelled off the side. Yeah. So it's just one of the most beautiful compositions I've ever seen for a par 3. And I'm not a big fan of the word iconic. I certainly hate signature golf hole but it's probably the one hole at Winged Foot that everybody will, instantly recognize, and that's just because it's such a good golf hole. Probably the biggest change from a green complex standpoint on the golf course, tee shot, we moved bunkers down range, so they should definitely be in play. You're kind of down, hitting up onto a ridge. Selfishly, I think that the second shot into 14, I think it's so different. Yeah. I'd like to think it's going to be a conclusive. If you miss the fairway or you get into a fairway bunker, which they're very deep, or you're coming out of the rough, and you try and run something up on the green, you've got to carry these bunkers short. It's a bit of variety that's been restored to the golf course that had been lost. And then the green, like all the others out there, perched up high, but prior to the restoration, it had deep bunker cut in the front left, and a lot of the left side of the green was removed. But when you looked at the original photos and design from Tillinghast, there were no bunkers in front of the green. With the restoration of the false front, now we've got front hole locations across the entirety of the green. Yeah. Whereas before there was only a front right hole location. And now, if you get above those hole locations, putting back and looking at that false front dropping off, or if you come up just short, the ball's going to suck back off the green, and then you can have that delicate little chip up and onto that front plateau. We took down some trees behind it as well, so now the green is just the horizon of the green. Yeah. Really an intimidating green to hit into. Really excited about the way this works out. 18th hole pressure at the U.S. Open. It's all of the elements that you could want. Whoever can step up and really hit that tee shot. Added some length to the tee shot, and you've got trees, rough, fairway bunker. So again, we shifted the bunker a little bit down the right-hand side, just as far as we could. Fairway that's got some more, because since it plays right next to number 11, it's got some more of that sort of smaller scale contour, but still will be an important part in determining where the ball winds up, even after you hit the fairway, and also potentially providing a little bit different lie, ball below your feet, above your feet. So some different options there with the shot into the green. And then the grand finish with that clubhouse behind the green, and the green now fully restored with a massive false front. And Tillinghast had written about, he did the same thing with 18 East, as utilizing the greens on his home holes to almost be like the stair steps that feed up to the clubhouse. So you've got this sort of in the foreground, the big false front on the 18th green is the first step, then you got the first tier, then you got the back tier. So you have these different tiers and steps, and just one of the most brutal greens to putt. Yeah. And with all that's going on in the green, and then all the pressure that's happening, it really is. It's a great test to finish a U.S. Open championship. Yeah, it's really a tremendous conclusion, because it has all the elements of everything that's come before it, kind of building to that crescendo with that green itself. Really a fitting finish.